Welcome back to the Dare to Dream podcast. My name is Vincent Van Pat.
And I'm Gregory Russell Benedict.
And this is a podcast to inspire you to embark on the adventure of your life. Greg, what an adventure it has been. It's the last day of your time in Japan.
The last day of my 2-week trip to visit Vinny in Japan, and I've had zero fun.
It's been quite boring. We've been in this apartment for most of it, just kind of doing what we usually do at home, just getting work done. We went to Fukuoka and Nagasaki in Kyushu. We talked about it 2 episodes ago. That was prior to departure. And now you're heading back today. And we have had some soul-nourishing, just thirst-quenching adventures, my friend.
I have had at least 1 bowl of ramen, sometimes 2, each and every day of the trip. So I'm at least at 15 bowls of ramen.
15 bowls of ramen, about 60% noodle at this point. Your arm's a little noodly.
Half man, half noodle.
That's right. That's how I like to keep it. Nice ratio. But I wanted to start about, so we're just going to kind of walk through the trip so far because there's been some serious moments, revelatory moments that we have just had so many beautiful thoughts and grappling as we usually do together. But the first thing, if you're watching this video, you'll notice that Greg and I both have tattoos. And we got them here in Osaka. And something that we were discussing for a while, this concept, we talked about it ad nauseum on podcast, but talk about it a little bit more today. Live a story worth telling. And this is definitely a story worth telling, how we got the tattoos. So I got, mine is in Japanese, Kataru ni taisuru jinsei wo ikuru.
Which means I love fried chicken.
That's right. I thought it meant something else, but it screwed me over. So I got in Japanese, you gotta live a story worth telling on your arm. And man, so psyched. Every time we look down at these arms of ours, we see a bolt, similar to Harry Potter's bolt of lightning, but a bolt of inspiration telling us to go and live a story worth telling. Go do something courageous. Go live your best life. Free of fear. And, as we discussed before, courage is the only quality that you can't fake, because in being courageous, in and of itself, you have to overcome fear and do the thing, even if you're scared. So hopefully these tattoos inspire us.
They inspire me, buddy. And in getting the tattoo, we were already living a story worth telling. We took a train out to the outskirts of Osaka, and I thought this was my first tattoo. So I thought it was going to be experience that I could work with the tattoo artist. I could tell him what I wanted. He'd be like, no, I think we should do this. Turns out that he doesn't speak any English. So my first tattoo, Vinny's third tattoo, was a story worth telling in the sense that we really didn't know what we were getting into, but it turned out perfectly. He spelled all of the words right on my arm, and it was just a surreal experience.
It really was. Yeah, it was quite special because it was like a month in advance. I started some research, found this guy on the outskirts of Osaka. We had to take a little journey, and it was cool how it wasn't just like you stumble into in the main drag and center of Osaka. It was like we were out in a real local suburban area and had to ask people where we couldn't find the place. Had to ask old woman sweeping the street where this tattoo parlor was. Felt like going into his apartment. We go there, just smoky filled room. Take your shoes off, put on slippers, so Japanese, and it's just the guy pokes his head around the corner, just "Konnichiwa, how are you?" And yeah, soon realized that you don't speak any English, but did some translating. I did the best I could with my scant knowledge, and got it done. It was hilarious, so cool. Japanese take quality seriously, and I had no doubts that it would have been done with the utmost quality. And I was slightly disappointed, but they're great. Very excited.
I had many doubts.
Yeah.
And 2 funny things from this experience. The first thing that I saw when we walked in is not our tattoo artist, whose name is Mitsuki, but the other guy. Didn't get his name. He's just tattooing his own leg, his upper thigh, this huge demon head with crab claws coming out of it, just doing it freehand. And as Vinny mentioned, it's smoky. We're like, is this the right spot?
It was hilarious.
It was unbelievable. And then the other thing that was hilarious is I don't know if it was lost in translation or what, but Mitsuki originally told Vinny that his tattoo was going to be like this big and that it was going to be his whole forearm.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna have to do my entire. I was like, and now it's wow. Well, like, yeah, give this thing up. I don't think so. I'm about to get a full arm tat, and I was about 70% about to do it, but luckily, yeah, I figured it out and was able to kind of minimize it a bit, and it's quite ideal. So my friend, we got him permanently implanted on our skin with a story worth telling. And, we've had incredible experiences in the past, and it's just the beginning, but this is a true testament of how seriously we take these passions of this path that we're on. But this also brings up a point of like, I feel we both had, this will go to the next story. Another revelatory kind of thing is take things less seriously and to just enjoy the process and enjoy life and this journey as much as freaking possible. So I just tell him. So we went to Fukuoka, awesome city, ate a lot of ramen, just very chill, great vibes. Nagasaki is when things really got interesting.
Nagasaki is definitely when things got interesting. But before we get there, I think it was one of the nights in Fukuoka. We'd had some ramen, we'd had some lemon sours, and some of the discoveries, there's many, but one of the ones for me was that it's actually through optimizing for enjoyment that you live a story worth telling, that you can have the most impact in other people's lives. For the longest time, I thought success was what I wanted. It was success and only success. And that was how I was going to be personally happy. That was how I was going to positively contribute to the lives of others. But what I realized on this trip is that a lot of the things that make me really, really happy are good for me and good for others. So in optimizing for enjoyment, if I'm showing up every day as very happy and playful, I'm going to get more done. I'm going to be more productive, more creative, and I'm going to help more people. So it's taking some of that pressure off of only focusing on success. And it's like every great philosopher that we listen to talks about, you don't focus on success. It's a byproduct that comes when you're pursuing your passions, when you're on this grand adventure. And that was a big moment for me, is that it's okay to really enjoy yourself and to aim at enjoyment as the thing you're optimizing for, as long as the things you enjoy are helpful, they're not destructive.
Yeah. And sometimes the word optimize for me sounds a little structured, or that you have to like make sure everything is like perfect, kind of correlated with like perfection. Not like optimizing for like this set. I would say, it's obviously nothing wrong with it, but maybe another way to say it is to just let yourself enjoy the process and the journey more. Like instead of like pushing for enjoyment, kind of just drop your guard a little bit more and allow yourself to. It's like for me,
I like that.
Yeah, like for me, it's like I put pressure on myself that I have to be doing these things, and to get to this place we have to go, I almost can't enjoy. Like this was my, I won't say problem, but something that I just like thought about a lot in Europe over the summer, and my first almost 9 months in Japan is, am I enjoying just being here, being alive, as much as I should be, when I'm so focused on creating and kind of taking advantage of the experience. So I think and we'll get into just how this all plays in with Kevin Kelly and such, but just dropping the guard of like, there's things you have to do, and just allowing yourself to understand that just by being on the path that you're on, if you have that aim of something, if something you're aiming at, if you know what that is, and you know that if you are taking steps in some capacity, honestly, like really anything at all, it's probably a lot better than most people are doing. If you like have this dream that, is inside of you, or if you're just seeking what even your first passion really is, it's like, if your aim might just be, I want to know what I'm interested in. I want to know what I'm curious about. I want to know what I could actually do that would be like life a little bit more fun. Once you have that aim, to be able to drop the guard and drop the have-tos and the perfection mentality, just saying, I'm just going to enjoy the process of trying to find out and enjoy the journey of moving forward.
I really like that idea of dropping your guard, lowering the barrier to life flowing and seeing what happens. And you just mentioned Kevin Kelly. we haven't given any context for that yet, but Kevin Kelly is this incredible thinker. He's the co-founder of Wired Magazine. He's been called a futurist, an optimist, and he recently went on the Rich Roll podcast. We've been listening to this podcast of Rich Roll interviewing him, and there's so many good things in it. I think we take a detour there to touch on some of those, and then we go back to the trip because
That's great.
the whole lens of the trip was through that. And where I want to start with it is he gives an assignment to everyone in their 20s. He says, in your 20s, you should spend some time goofing off. You should do something. I'm going to let you come in with the quote.
Yes. Do something in your 20s that looks nothing like success. That experience, as unsuccessful as it might look then, might become the touchstone for your success later on.
Yeah, and he talks about goofing off in your 20s, doing something that doesn't look like success, doing something just because you want to, because it's that intrinsic motivation. It can be weird, it can be unique. It doesn't need to necessarily lead to something, but in that paradoxical roundabout way that everything seems to happen, down the road, it's probably going to mean something. It's probably going to be part of your story that's worth telling.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so interesting because further on, they talk about like he had, I forget the guy's name, the guy from The Office, really funny, Rain Wilson or something. And he's just saying like, your 20s are for fucking off. They're for just literally goofing off, just failing at things. Like a big point in this is to actually be doing things. That doesn't necessarily mean it's like progressing a career or anything. It just means doing things that might be interesting to you, creating art, whatever even that means. And just truly enjoying that experience of being alive. And they posted that clip of like him saying that. And it's about 50-50. A lot of people were like, understood it and it kind of helped them. Then a lot of people were like, we're in our 20s and you don't know what it's like. how am I supposed to pay for it? I can't afford to just fuck off and do nothing. I can't afford, obviously there's not excuses, but there's many ways you could see that. But
Reality.
okay, yeah. And they're saying like it's a privileged position to be able to say, just fuck off, do whatever you want. In your 20s, you're supposed to just have fun. And that's something we grapple with too. But we keep going back to it really being not the way, but like it is. So basically, the next part of it is.
Can I say something to that real quick? For me, when I heard that, I think I understood the dichotomy of reaction. One, we read a whole book, The Defining Decade, about how your 20s are for building social capital and having those experiences. I think for me, what comes up is he's talking about goofing off in an exploratory way, a way where you're getting to know yourself, you're getting to know the world, and that doesn't always look wholesome, right? Maybe that looks like singing karaoke at 3 a.m. in Nagasaki, which we'll get to later. But it's opening yourself up to the world. It's not closing yourself down and kind of just doing destructive behaviors where you're just staying inside and playing video games all night and you're, doing all of that. So that's what comes up for me is that there's good ways to goof off and there's bad ways to goof off. Sometimes you don't know which is which and you have to explore that and, dance with a foot in each for a bit.
Totally. Yeah, it's a great point. It all comes down to basically the crux of it is the 20s are your time to explore, the time to be curious, and you can't put up barriers of like, this is what I should be, this is what I should be doing. I'm in this career, it's making money. And something that's important about that first quote by Kevin Kelly is that what does success mean? Like he says, do something in your 20s that looks nothing like success. And we're like, something he posted about the podcast and put that quote in. I'm like, well, if that makes it look like the podcast and about successful. Like, well, I think what it's getting at is like monetary, traditional success. Yeah. Do something that doesn't look like you're progressing a career or that you are, from the outside looking in, successful. You're making money, you're rich, you got the girl, you got the car. That stuff is, it's a facade of success, and do something that looks like the opposite of that. Something that looks like you actually want to do.
And this leads perfectly into what I wanted to touch on next, is he says that especially when it comes to your passion and finding your passion, it doesn't matter where you start. You don't have to get it right the first time because you're passionate or what you're passionate about, you never end up where you started. Look at anyone who is well known for a specific thing. They didn't start there. It's always this meandering path where they just explore, they're goofing off, it slowly changes and evolves.
Yes.
So I know for me personally, I put so much pressure on myself for the first 4 or 5 years after college to find my passion, to figure it out. I wanted that lightning bolt moment where I just woke up one day and knew what I was supposed to do. And it wasn't that at all. It was in getting started on something that I started to put the puzzle pieces together. And I know that where I started is not where I'm going to end. Where I am right now is probably not where I'm going to end.
It's so much good stuff. So he says, like Rich Paul says, that passion is a product of action. It's not the other way around. Waiting around to stuck with what you're passionate about as a precursor to action is the way most people think about it. And that leads to paralysis, a protracted period of confusion. So if you're doing, like, if you're, in your 20s and saying, like, I just don't know what I'm curious about. Like, I don't know what I'm passionate. Nothing's calling me. It's like, well, are you trying things? Are you literally dropping guard and saying, I'm going to go take a dance class? I'm going to do something. You have so many good ideas. Like, do something totally new every year on your birthday. Just try new things. And I can get better at this. Sure, we all definitely could. But yeah, I love that. And he also says, like, the more unique or special people ultimately are in the end, it's likely that the further away they started in the beginning. Like, for him, this is so helpful for me because my whole thing this whole time has been like, there's no job for the things that I love. Like, and that's for so many people. Like, it's creating, it's storytelling in a way that is more of a book than just like a blog post. But both. It's kind of explaining how travel makes you feel instead of just saying, like, what you should go and do. And I haven't found a magazine that I want to work for that's not like 8 reasons you should, what's happening in Tokyo this weekend. I mean, thinking out loud here, like, I'm not opposed to those things, but like, what I truly love is just exploring my inner world as I explore the outer world. And I love creating videos. And so he's like, this guy, Kevin Kelly, he spent his entire 20s just exploring Asia. Like, could do it at that time and still now. They're like world packers and, like, workways and stuff. He spent his entire 20s just with his camera and exploring Asia and trying to just see what the world was all about. And honestly, this is the first time I've heard this guy, but it feels like my spirit guide. Like, just from listening to half of this podcast, because he didn't have like this is a job that, Elliot, this is what you love to do. This is the job you should do. It took him probably a long time to create his own job. And in our modern day, I think that is becoming more and more important. So it could become the most important thing to do. As many different things as possible and bring them together somehow, some way, in your own way. In time.
Kevin Kelly is a thought leader about the future, about AI, and he was really talking about how the future he's imagining is one where you're successful. Let's throw that word away. You have influence and monetary success in the future if you're extremely creative and unique. So it's through focusing on becoming more of yourself and what your unique, special talents are. Then in the past, it was more about just following the traditional set lanes, doctor, lawyer, accountant, whatever. And he says, don't focus on being the best, focus on being the only, right? Focus on being such a unique set of skill sets and assets and thoughts and personalities that you are the person that people turn to for whatever it is that thing you're known for.
Definitely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be just like, this is from a creative kind of lens of like, we're both love to inspire people and talking about these things, but it's creating, it's creating art, it's creating anything that, that is strange, weird, and inside of you and pursuing. Like, it doesn't even have to be creating in a sense. It's really anything at all that calls you.
One thing I want to go back to, because I remember I think you told me about it before I listened to the podcast, and I was like, oh, well, that's easy to do back then, but not now. It was the piece about, he talked about how he traveled all throughout his 20s without money.
Right.
I was like, well, how do you do that? Because I just went on this trip for 14 days and it's been super expensive. But he explained more in the podcast that you're working at the hostel you're staying at, so you don't have to pay the hostel, or you're doing one of those woof farming where you're working on a farm and you're getting paid and then you're traveling, or you save up a bunch of money, you go travel for 6 months and you come back, make more money. So there are ways to do it. And I loved how he pointed out most people have enough money to do it, but they don't have enough time. They aren't allocating enough time toward it. Because if you really want to go travel, you just have to free yourself up. You have to lower some of that guard and find ways to make it work.
Super fun. I mean, yeah, I worked at a hostel over the summer, and like and goes back to like me not having a specific job for the things that I love right now, but like I still gonna have day jobs, and it's cool how our perspectives continues to evolve and change. Like we started this podcast going on quitting your day job, like go for your dreams, but now it's like, no, if I need to make money, so like I'm gonna continue to pursue day jobs that help me learn and help me grow and do interesting things. So I worked at a hostel in Lisbon over the summer, and then on a farm in Italy, and like those experiences were so cool. And you just get free lodging and maybe meals, maybe you get paid a little bit, but free lodging is pretty great. And so yeah, side note there.
Should we jump into Nagasaki next?
Let's jump into Nagasaki.
Tell the stories, let the audience decide whether it was goofing off in a exploratory or destructive way.
Yes. So we go to Nagasaki, part 2 of the trip, and the first night we get there and it is just pouring rain. Nagasaki is interesting. Obviously, it was hit by the atom bomb. That's in 1945. And similar to Kobe, which is a city close to Osaka. And it's port city, so it's like got these European influences. And we both just loved it. Like it's got just the most like charming alleyways. It's kind of this European cobblestone mixture with Japanese, just quintessential, beauty, and just fascinating. So it was already awesome in the pouring rain. And we get there the first night, and no have-tos, but we go out, I did a little bit of research on the train, and I read about this rooftop shrine. And I saw like there's this red staircase that leads onto it. And we just stumbled upon it as we're out, going out in the town. And first experience of the night is just us up at this rooftop shrine looking over Nagasaki in the pouring rain. And that really set the bar for some fun.
Really set the tone. And Nagasaki is so cool because, as we mentioned, there's all these little quaint alleyways that feel really magical. And you feel like you're in a different world. But then outside the city, it's almost like it's in a valley and then it just goes up with hills. And there's amazing green trees and bushes and foliage. It really feels like you're in this other world. And I think because it rains a lot, it's so green and vibrant. And it was crazy. Yeah, we would look through an alleyway, and at the end of the alleyway, like way down as far as we could see, we would just like go up into the woods, and it looked like all was like in Inception when like the city is like folding in on itself. It was wild.
It was nuts. But yeah, so vibrant, very beautiful. And so we go out, we stumble upon this first like Showa era bar, which is like from like the 1930s to like the 80s in Japan, such as like the classic, 1950s, like American culture is baseball and futuristic, that weird like retro futuristic. It's the same thing with Showa era Japan. So this bar was that same vibe and super cool. We asked the guy next to us, we ate his food.
Yeah, after we accidentally ate his food because the waiter took bringing us their food, and we're like, is this free?
Free yakitori, great. And eventually he's like, is that yours? Like, oh, no. So
after profusely apologizing, yes, we made friends.
Yeah, we asked him places to go, and got some great recommendations. And we're stumbling along Shinkachi? Shinmaishi?
Some alley, yeah, famous alley.
Yashi, Yokocho. And, the bars and to an area, just izakayas and bars. And we go one way down, and then we're on our way back. And the familiar face, like, popping out the window, wants to say something to us. And we're like, hey, are you guys drinking? Like, yeah, we're kind of just getting the lay of the land. And it's like, where are you going? Well, don't really know. And what do you suggest? It's like, well, I always drink here. Can we come in? And I look around. It's like a 6-person bar. And we ask the bartender. And 2 people leave the bar and go upstairs to like make room for us. Like, geez. Okay. Guess this is what's happening. And we go with a new friend, and we all 3 of us go upstairs as well. And so I guess they didn't use the downstairs area, but we get up there and there's like 3 tables. One of them's open, the other one is occupied by the 2 who just went up there. And then we sit down with our new friend, and the mega highballs start flowing. And after about 40 minutes, what happens next?
Man, one thing led to another. So we're upstairs in this quaint little Japanese bar. Everything's made of wood. We're sitting on overturned milk cartons, a little wooden seat on top. And our new friend Mitz just telling us what he's doing in Nagasaki. So cool. He's a dreamer just like us. He basically is frustrated with the Japanese school system so much that he decided he wanted to start his own school. So he's in Nagasaki to start a school. We get chatting. We're drinking some lemon sours. Things are going well. And to make a really long story short, we ended up getting everyone upstairs together. We pushed the tables together. We're showing them American drinking games. We're having an absolutely grand time.
Yeah, it's 6, like 9 of us. And then, the servers are getting in on after a while. They had their own drinks going. We're all just playing good drinking games, having a ball. And after that, we're like, well, let's go to the next spot. And they take us to go get sushi. And I was just having a hell of a time. From sushi, we go karaoke like 3 a.m, out until the sun comes up, pouring rain. And it was just one of those experiences that makes you so grateful. I mean, there's got to be some sort of energy out there that Mitz, some of the people, so kind of him to like go out his way to invite us in, want to know what we were up to.
I mean, he made our whole night. His little act of poking his head out of the bar at the 2 foreigners who had been wandering around and saying, what are you guys doing? Like, do you want to come here? It changed the entire night. And then we had the unique opportunity to go out with 5 to 7, who knows how many of us there were, Japanese locals.
Yeah.
And they were so friendly. I made a joke that after a few lemon sours, the language barrier didn't stand a chance. I had hour-long conversations with people where they were speaking Japanese, I was speaking English. We didn't understand each other at all, but making hand motions or smiling. It was such a cool experience. Like when he said the sushi at midnight, and then the karaoke, and just this melding of our cultures. And it didn't matter that we couldn't understand each other. It didn't matter that we were all strangers. No one knew each other, but by the end of the night, we felt like such tight friends. And they said they walked us all the way back to our hostel and said goodbye to us for like 5 minutes. Like, arigato gozaimasu,
It's so great. And that was revelation number 2, that, back in the day, I mean, we've grown quite a bit, in very little ways, but it's just that, like, we might have been the next morning, we were quite hungover. We get up and we might have beaten ourselves up for it. I mean, my old version of me probably would have been like still trying to get out there and like do as much as possible in Nagasaki. Your old version of you, what would you be doing?
Oh man, full existential readiness.
What am I doing in my life? Why am I? But like, we were so happy we did it. Those are the experiences that make you grateful to be alive in a foreign country, and made me think of Anthony Bourdain, some of his best advice: drink heavily with locals. When you get the opportunity. So basically, saw this, another friend sent me a clip of Anthony Bourdain speaking. And so he's, one of my biggest inspirations for sure. And I had another revelation I'll come to later, but he says, if you get the opportunity to go to a foreign country, you're in Taiwan, you're in Japan, you're, anywhere, Spain, it's kind of something old school thing, but like, don't order the club sandwich. Eat as much of the local food as you can. Drink whenever you get the opportunity with locals, like, don't be afraid to ask that person next to you for local recommendations. Like, use that opportunity to just break down through your own fear and just truly experience something that we're so fortunate to be able to experience. And that, so, I mean, few people really get to have like a time like that. And it comes from the smallest act of just being open. And, you know, I was telling you yesterday that I saw some Americans in Osaka that they were drinking, and I was sitting out front of a restaurant, and one of the guys just like threw a can into the bushes, and his friend was like, "Oh, dude, come on, like, don't do that." Then they just left it there, and I had like one moment like, should I just go pick it up? I didn't, and I regret not doing it because my like urge was to go pick it up. I'm like, well, I guess it's not really my responsibility. But you're telling me the initial gut reaction is probably, and I don't want to make like them. This is my, I was like, I don't want to make them feel bad for like picking up their trash and being like, you idiot. But it would just be a good thing to do. But anyways, I was getting at the fact that don't be an ass, like, be polite, be gracious, truly sink into how special of an experience as that is, and just enjoy the ride. Like, you're going to get made fun of if you're in a foreign country. You're going to have to have some thick skin and just like laugh and just be open to it. Because, like, it's not saying that if you're walking down the street in Japan, you're going to get called in by some local. Like, more often than not, we got turned away from every sushi bar we tried to get into in Nagasaki. And sometimes you don't know if it's just because you're a foreigner or if they don't actually have room. But, like, we tried to get into one, and the guy just immediately just said no. And then an old Japanese man standing outside, sushi tabata? Do you want to eat sushi? I'm like, yes. And he like goes in, peers his head into the door, and like tries to talk to the sushi chef. And he goes back outside. He's like, nah, like, sorry, thought what happened. Okay, that's like, it is what it is. But at least give yourself the opportunity, be open to it, and don't take anything personally, and you'll have some great memories.
You know you're doing something right when an old Japanese man outside tries to go to bath. What comes up for me in that, what happened on this whole trip is that you have to be willing to speak up, to speak to someone. That was the unlock for pretty much every fun and interesting situation we got into, was us talking to strangers. And it's really fun being over here in Japan because we had so many people just come up to us, ask us where we're from. I had a terrible conversation with a woman at 7-Eleven this morning. She spoke no English and was trying to ask me what I'm doing because I was wearing my big backpack. But it's so fun talking to strangers and trying to communicate when you know that there's zero chance that you can understand each other, but just going for it anyways.
You got to do it. You got to do it. So we had the realization that, like, sometimes with traveling, it's not just what you're doing during the day, seeing the sights, that is truly the experience. Maybe the experience is getting up one day and having a once-in-a-lifetime just night out with some locals or your friends, or just have a night in town, like letting go of, I got to be in bed by 12 o'clock to have a big day tomorrow. Let yourself have that truly insane experience, because those are the moments that you'll always remember. And I remember seeing that shrine, and they are great. We love them. We love the monuments, what have you. But it's like those partying with the locals are, we're never going to forget that.
Yeah.
Out of all of Nagasaki, like, that is what's going to last with us forever.
And then giving ourselves permission the next day to sit in that cafe all day while it was pouring rain and just write and journal and read. Like, that was one of my favorite experiences too. So it was so nice getting to do that because I don't do that at home.
Traveling is really what you make of it. It's what you want to do. Sometimes you need to take a break and just chill. You don't have to push yourself. Sometimes you want to go out. Sometimes you don't want to do anything. Sometimes you want to go on a hike. Do what you enjoy. It's all about just seeing something new, being a part of a different place, different culture, different type of people. And I mean, those are the experiences where you realize that we all really are the same. And we all just want to have a good, I just want to have a good time. We all want to find love. We all want to connect with other human beings and share something meaningful, I think.
Amen.
Yes. So that kind of brings us to, well, another revelatory moment for me was realizing that, I have this kind of pressure to create when we're in different places like this. Like I have to be putting together videos, and I just know we were talking about some of our biggest dreams, and I really accepted the fact that like I do want to be the next Anthony Bourdain. Like, you know, obviously it's very different backgrounds, upbringings, type of people, but what he did, I believe, and why I loved his shows and his books so much, is he made you feel that place, and he bridged the hearts, cultures, and people. And it's not like after a while he stopped even explaining the food because, you know, you don't say it's delicious so many times, but food is obviously a part of it, and especially like in Japan, food and drinking is so integral to the culture. But he just brought cultures together, brought people together, and he told those stories of people who are, you know, every walk of life, and then told their stories in interesting ways. And I just like, I couldn't get enough of seeing these different places and kind of feel the heartbeat of the different cities you go to. And I had this like, you know, my whole journey so far has been like, oh, Anthony Bourdain has been such a big influence, like, but I don't really know what I'm going to do and such. But it's been a daunting thing to accept, like, that is what I want. Like, in the end, I don't know how I'm going to get there. And this is part of this whole concept, but I would love, like, I love making videos because I love to make you feel something. Like this reel that we're putting together, just a minute and a half of just chopping up our 2 weeks together. Like, it's so cool to make you feel just like, feel the energy of those moments. And I truly do love that. And then also realize that I love writing because you can have that experience that night out, and you don't have to be in the moment. Like, I'll get to this as well, but I love writing because I could reflect. I could sit in the cafe the next day and reflect on why the experience is so cool, blending my personal thoughts and emotions in with like the actual experience.
Yeah, you don't have to have your camera out in the food dish, like getting in the way of the conversations and the experience. You can have the experience then, and the next day write about it. That's why I love writing as well.
Exactly. And this is how it can relate to other people, is that I felt this pressure to, because I'm in Japan for all this time, like, you got to be showing they're my brother on the bus, but it's just because he loves me and he wants the best for me. He said, dude, you got to be making these videos. Like I never, like one time I was FaceTiming him on the bike home through my neighborhood, just like cool house, Japanese house and stuff. And he's like, I've never seen anything like this. You got to be making videos, like showing
TikToks 3 times a day.
It's like, you got, like, people aren't blowing up on Instagram. Like, if you're going to be big, it's going to be TikTok. So I'm like, I don't like to, like, I don't watch TikTok, but I guess I got to just make videos and start putting them on there. I don't want to. I really just don't want to. And I like Instagram because I just like, I like pictures and I like showing those like little snippets of everyday life. But for some reason, TikTok just isn't my vibe. And we were out with this other creator in Nagasaki, this awesome artist, digital artist, who's traveling the world, pretty much living on the road, living in different cities. And he just creates these like magical worlds on his iPad, and he has hundreds of thousands of followers. He's pretty much living the dream. Like, as a creator, that is what I would love to do. But we were out, and the three of us, and we stumbled in this smoky little bar restaurant where you're just smoking your own meats and vegetables on the charcoal grill in front of you. And we were just talking about, like, you know, to be a vlogger, like, that would have been the coolest experience to capture. But I don't want to sit there, like, filming the different cutscenes of, like, this little, experience. And this is also why I kind of grapple with, like, be the next Anthony Bourdain, because part of me feels like I have to be creating that stuff to get to that point. But this experience made me realize that I don't have to.
And it's, if you had your camera, if you would have had your phone out at that little grill your own meats place, the Japanese people next to us wouldn't have been talking to us. We wouldn't have had this whole experience.
His experience.
It would have gotten in the way in order to show other people, versus just having that experience yourself so that you can eventually share it.
Right. And a couple things to relate to, like, how, whoever's listening, it's that you don't have to do, like, I've been grappling with this for years. I'm like, I have to be doing this stuff. basically, I set my goal, I set my aim. I want to be the next Bourdain in my own way, and pretty much want to bridge the hearts of cultures and people and tell interesting stories. That was my aim. I don't want to be a TikToker. I don't want to create fast paced, like, I don't want to create just clickbaity videos. That's not what I want to do. But I'm taking a lot of the pressure off myself that I have to do these things to get to this point, because I've realized that, and this goes into the whole Kevin Kelly thing, just by having that interest, just by opening yourself to, to what you are like. But a lot of different things in here, but just creating because it truly makes you happy, like creating for creating's sake. And there's this Kurt Vonnegut, don't bring that in. No, we're doing it just like creating's sake. Just to understand who you are. It's sad. It's not like I have to change my perspective from, and I have, like, on this trip, it's helped me a lot. To get to a certain point, instead of creating just because it makes me happy, because it helps me understand myself. And as long as I keep doing that and simplifying, I will get to where I'm meant to go. And I have this lofty goal, but if I stay on this path of like doing this, the things that I do truly enjoy for an extended period of time, I guess the only way to do it for a long time is because you enjoy it. And I read, in this age of social media, especially if you want to be a content creator, there's so many different platforms you feel like you have to be on, but cut it down to two that you actually enjoy. So YouTube, Instagram for me, and then I write on Medium. But I enjoy Instagram, I enjoy like actual podcasts and well-informed stuff and creating because I want to. And because of that, because of the energy, the love they put into the world, like you were saying before, if you do it because, lighthearted, because you actually enjoy it, you're gonna get to where you're meant to go. You're gonna show up in the best way possible. That's the only way to do it sustainably.
And we had a big conversation about this. I was so excited when you told me that you want to be the next Anthony Bourdain, because that's a big dream. And it's really important to have that big dream, to have that thing you're aiming at, and then you can let go of everything else. You can let go of how you think it's going to happen, how you feel like it needs to go, the ways to get there, and just let go and flow. I flow through life. But having that real big aim is important because it's the direction. It's that North Star you're moving towards. And we talked about finding that big aim is really uncomfortable. And it's not an enjoyable experience many times. The first time someone asks you, what do you want? What do you really want? What do you really, really want? Like, what's your dream behind the dream? Yeah. It's usually uncomfortable because you're like, I don't know. Like, I haven't thought about it. But once you grapple with that for a little bit and you come up with something, then it's like this huge weight off your shoulders, because you took the time to be in that discomfort to figure out what you're aiming at, and then you can take the pressure off. You can say, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I have absolutely no idea what it's going to look like, but that's where I want to go, and let's go life. Let's see what happens.
Seriously. And it feels like weight is off my shoulders. Like, I enjoy writing the books, and that's what I'm going to focus on for the next few months, is finishing the Syrup book. I just deleted TikTok, like, even though, and I keep coming back to like how it applies, you don't have to do the things that, just because other people find success through something, that doesn't mean you have to. Just because the artist, you asked him, like, so how did you blow up? And forgot TikTok. I'm like, damn it, how is that what I have to do? But I don't want to. So obviously it's resistance, and you could see it as like, that means I have to do it, like face the resistance. But if it doesn't bring you joy, just don't. Why mess around with it?
And there's a big difference between resistance and resistance to something because it's scary, and resistance to something because it misaligns with your values.
True.
So you and I both love long form sharing and like real deep authenticity. And my experience of TikTok is very short, very choppy, it's less authentic. Maybe, well, honestly, for me, just social media is less authentic. So that's why it clashes. It's not that I'm scared of doing it, because I had a time where for 5 months I made a reel, a TikTok. Every single day I was doing YouTube videos. And it made me realize that even if I became a millionaire, a billionaire, but I had to do that every day, like that was my life, I wouldn't be happy, because you're spending all of your time, which is it's the most precious resource. You're spending all of your time doing something you don't like.
Exactly. yeah, I mean, the big concept here is that these young years we have in our 20s or even 30s, whatever, it's like,
And 40s and 50s.
it's life, all of life. There's no time, there's no cutoff point to start living life that is authentic and true to who you truly are. And you gotta explore. I mean, got question. And it was like, even you asking me, like, what, I don't know what you asked specifically, but like, if I actually got to the point where it was like, wow, this girl did actually ask recently, and like, I think, oh, the next day, I think we're dating. And what does that mean? It means that, and I've already said it, I want to tell interesting stories. And obviously, on a grand scale, like, I want to truly have an impact. And I love making you feel. So if that's, dare I say, movies, if it's TV show, books is what I'm starting with, but have that aim. And maybe I don't get there. Maybe, I live my whole life pursuing this thing and it doesn't end up on this grand scale, that I've imagined, but at least living a life that's passionate and a story worth telling.
That life, even if you don't make it to where you want to go, is going to be so much more fun and enjoyable and exciting than if you just settled for something that was certain but not what you wanted.
And I think the most important thing too, well,
Both important.
big statement. Tie this together is that, like, in your 20s, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like this, we came out hot and heavy on this podcast. Like, quit your job, do all this stuff, and we're getting lighter and lighter. And I think that is beautiful. And realizing that you will look back. I mean, my mom posts reels all the time. Posted one today. It's like, in 20 years, you will look back and wish you were exactly where you were today. You wish you were exactly this healthy, this happy at this place. You would just be wishing for this experience again. And as you are looking for that thing you're passionate about, looking for what draws your curiosity, just realize that you'll never be this young. Maybe you'll be healthier than you are, but it is a gift and privilege to be where you are now. And I mean, I've definitely wasted time worrying, but just not in regret of that, just accepting that right now is the time to start and enjoy as much as possibly can. Enjoy the life you're given.
Enjoy it. That's what, last thing I'll say before we wrap things up is, that's what we were talking about yesterday. We're sitting in this park, the sun is going down, it's beautiful. I was like, dang, we are so lucky. We have legs that work, we have 2 arms, we have a nose. Like, if you're listening to this and you have a fully functioning body and you're healthy and you can do the things you enjoy on a day-to-day basis, maybe it's not all the time, maybe it's in between the commitments you have that you don't like as much, but just being able to walk, to move, to breathe, it is such a gift. There's absolutely nothing to worry about. And I was telling you, like, I want someone to tell me that every morning when I wake up, just how lucky I am, to remind me of that gratitude. And I wish that I could feel that in all moments. Part of being human is that you won't.
Yeah, of course.
But just coming back to that, always remembering that there's nothing to worry about. It's all going to be okay. This is such a great life.
You've gotten this far. You've got to this point. You've made it through all the obstacles before you, but it's not a joke though. Like, you have legs, you have arms. Living in a city has showed me how, there's a lot of people who don't have that, who aren't as fortunate. Just to be healthy is literally everything. Jordan Peterson says, any old, rich, decrepit person would give every cent they had to be young, poor, and healthy again. And I mean, if you got that, you got it all. So take advantage of what you have, enjoy your life. But what else we got? It's
that trip. I did a big trip. I'm flying out in a few hours. It has been a privilege and an honor, my friend. Yeah, I love you.
Love you, man, so much. Yeah, it's definitely sad. It's sad to say goodbye to you, but it's more exciting than anything because there's so much good stuff ahead of us.
Just the beginning, right? Love you. Love everyone that has been with us on this journey. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today.